Just the time delivery. You gotta take. I've still got 30 seconds.
At 9 o'clock, we'll call this committee meeting, April 5th, 2024, to order. Let me make an announcement while I have it on my mind, and so I'll be sure to get this out. We have our regular next meeting on May the 2nd, starting at 1 o'clock. We've kind of taken consensus and have agreed that we will move that back to noon that day. I understand CJ has a commitment that afternoon too, and we're trying to give her a little leeway in there. So,
Oh, thank you.
well, we appreciate all your efforts and contributions, and we want you to be here for the meeting, but we want you to be able to take care of your other responsibilities as well.
Thank you
So
so
just
much.
Please make a note on your calendar that the second quarter board meeting will commence here at noon on May the 2nd. All right, with that out of the way, Madam Secretary, Regent Thomas, would you please call our roll?
Regent Bell, Regent Ball, Regent Brinkley,
Present.
Regent Bobby,
Present.
Regent Dennison here, Chair Milliken,
Here.
Regent Nichols, Regent Spiller,
Present.
Secretary Thomas, Vice Chair West, present, and Regent Kurtz.
Here.
We have 9 regents present.
Very good. The first item of business this morning is the Academic Affairs Committee. With Regent Spiller will be taking care of that since Regent Bale is otherwise engaged.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a committee today that's reduced in numbers but not in knowledge. So we're going to we have a few action items. We turn it over to the Provost District.
We have 3 action items to take up today. The first is the approval of the undergraduate certificate in personal branding. And we have Dr. Merle Price here to speak to it.
Good morning. Well, I'm here for Dean Brown, who can't be with us today. And you may have seen him standing up in front of you on previous committee meetings to talk about revamping of curriculum in PCAL. So we are suspending some programs, we are revamping some programs, we are updating others, and we are adding some new ones. And today we are in additive mode. And the first one that I'm going to talk about today is the personal branding certificate. Now, one of the things that I say to incoming freshmen when I do their topper orientation and their parents is that some of the jobs that they will have when they leave this university haven't been invented yet. And this, I think, is particularly true for personal branding. When I was in school, I would certainly have not had a clue what a personal branding certificate was. And in fact, even this week, I was frantically researching what a personal branding certificate was. And I have my notes here, so you'll have to give me grace while I consult them because I want to get the language right. So this certificate is an interdisciplinary certificate that's offered by the School of Media and Communication, and it addresses the need for our 21st century graduates to develop for themselves a strong and identifiable digital presence. And this will make them marketable in 2 ways. 1, it makes them stand out from the crowd for employers, and 2, it allows them to develop the skills in promotion that the certificate will allow them to develop and to articulate, which is a really important part of this program. So by the end of the program, they will not only have a strong personal brand strategy, but also a portfolio of content that they can demonstrate to potential employers so that they can successfully position themselves in a modern job market with this expertly curated online presence. So we expect that this certificate will appeal to students across the university and that it will enhance student employability and also to address needs in the industry. Any questions?
So as an interdisciplinary program and one that is a certificate, it should appeal to a lot of students in different areas who are trying to build their own personal brand, as you say, something new to us to
Absolutely.
go with whatever particular area they are looking to be successful in.
Yes, and one area that's been mentioned in particular is that with the changes to name and likeness, this might be something that student athletes find to their advantage.
I was surprised at one figure in this presentation and amazed at another. I was a little surprised that 45% of Gen X participants. That's a little higher than I probably thought it would be. But I was amazed at the 16.4 billion economic impact that this will have in 2023.
It's astonishing.
That's not small change.
No, and it's proliferating year after year. It's exponential.
Any other questions or comments? Not at all. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
CJ, you're muted there. All right, having the first and the second, all those in favor, we're gonna.
There we go. I second.
Hearing first and second, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye,
Aye.
that's all. So, thank you, sir. Second item?
Second one has to do with approval of a minor in piano pedagogy, and Dr. Price will approach this too.
Thank you. That's me again. This one is a little more traditional. One, it's a minor, a 26-hour minor. It is offered in the music department. It is offered primarily to music majors, and it is a minor in piano pedagogy. Many of our students in music, particularly those in piano, will end up teaching at some point, whether it's on their way to their degree or whether it's later, whether it's private lessons, whether it's group lessons, whether it's in some other environment. We do currently have some basic piano pedagogy courses in the department, but we have students who have asked about pursuing piano pedagogy further. And when they have done that, they have done so through independent study courses. And that has meant that although they develop the skills, those skills are not reflected in their credentials. So this is an opportunity to dig a little deeper into piano pedagogy for those students. It's a creative minor. It has some things like music entrepreneurship involved in it. It also has a developmental psychology course involved in it, and it also has some service learning. So it will give these students the opportunity to work with diverse populations. So a little bit different from a traditional piano pedagogy minor. There's a lot of interest in this from students who are currently in the program, and this will give them the opportunity to win competitive graduate assistantships, for example, but also to teach for themselves and to go into academia, perhaps, or into other areas where music pedagogy will be.
So a question for the provost. Sure. Just you guys forget when we have a minor and a graduate certificate, just help the board understand a little bit.
Sure.
Why we might do a minor versus certificate.
Yeah, I mean, I think certificates are designed to be open to everybody, usually interdisciplinary, as we put them in. And in a large number of cases, I think go across all age groups. So as we move forward with online education on this campus and continue to expand it, we see the certificates as the perfect in places like Nashville and that, where people are trying to be retooled and that. Minors are more on campus. Minors are to be filled in with the majors who are on campus. They have a greater number of hours associated with them, and they are meant to be add-ons so that you can improve your CV or resume.
And if I could just add to that, the other thing about certificates is that they are standalone credentials, which means that you can come here simply for a certificate, whereas you can't come here simply for a minor. And in some cases, you're eligible for financial aid for pursuing a certificate.
And remember, last time we were here, we had the stackable certificates, and that's the hope as we move forward, is you create stackable certificates like the business college has, where somebody comes in and takes one or maybe takes two and then finds out they have now 30 hours and maybe it's okay to finish the graduate degree or the undergraduate degree. And we continue to stack those certificates on each other to get a degree.
Other questions or comments? I'll entertain the motion. So
I make a motion
second.
to accept.
CJ, motion. Regent Kurtz, the second, and all those in favor of this, please say aye. Aye. Of course. CJ, there we go.
Yes.
Thank you, Regent Nichols, and
Thank you, Dr. Price. Third is approval of the graduate certificate in the School of Social Work. Dr. Aaron Warhol is here.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about this very important certificate that will meet growing need in our community. It's no secret that youth mental health challenges are on the rise, and this certificate would prepare our graduates to eliminate a barrier to access within the schools. So a graduate certificate in school social work, again, to address the growing concern with youth mental health challenges, chronic absenteeism, school violence. The certificate has been developed in collaboration with Green River Regional Educational Cooperative, GREC, as well as the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences, to ensure that we're meeting the requirements for graduates to be employable within school districts locally and nationwide. The certificate would require students to take a course in trauma-informed school-based social work, as well as choose from a variety of courses related to legal and policy and clinical intervention and assessment. And those courses pull from a variety of disciplines as well: counseling, psychology, education, of course, psychological sciences. So it's very much a collaborative effort that would truly meet a need in our community and prepare graduates to meet that need and be employable within school districts. I could go on and on and on, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just let me say.
Yes.
This is so needed.
It is.
You know, there's so many,
Definitely.
there's so many students that need help. And their parents work, they can't do the after school appointments or.
Exactly.
And that's a huge issue. So, the research shows that students of marginalized populations living in poverty are 50 times more likely to receive mental health services if offered in school.
Yeah.
So I think that's enough right there. So.
Yes, I agree.
It's real. So I'm assuming teachers could go back and get this.
Yes, well, they would be required to have a master's in social work with additional credits, but we are hopeful that our alumni, as well as alumni from other institutions that are working in schools but don't have the necessary credential with the Department of Education, could come back here to Western and earn that credential.
I think I would
And be more
really
marketable.
publish this, you know, in the local
Yes,
schools, 'cause I feel like
absolutely.
there would be a big demand for this.
Absolutely. And our collaboration with GREC has been really wonderful to assist with that as well.
any other questions or comments? Not. Regent Nichols, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, make a motion for the sociology certificate. I think it's awesome.
Have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have two information items today. I'd like to start off with Professor Becca Andrews. Becca Andrews joined us in 2023. She's an award-winning investigative journalist who's published in such areas as Mother Jones, Rolling Stone, Wired, Teen Vogue, and The New Republic, among other publications. She has a new debut book out. That's The Destruction of Roe versus Wade and the Fight to Protect Fundamental American Right. And today she's here to talk to you about reporting on abortion access access in a post-Dobbs America. There she is.
Thanks. Hey, y'all. If you'll indulge me, I'm gonna do the obnoxious author thing.
You gotta get it.
Contractually obligated to do that. So yes, as Bud said, I am an investigative reporter. So thrilled to be teaching here at Western University. My focus has traditionally been in narrative and investigative reporting, so I write primarily for magazines and for online publications that let me take a little bit more of a human-focused narrative, creative nonfiction approach to my work. I also operate in covering abortion access under the thing called the reproductive justice framework. It's the term that was coined by Black women in the 90s who felt that the right to abortion movement wasn't meeting their needs because it wasn't talking about abortion access in the broader context of reproductive health care. It wasn't talking about how abortion access should exist alongside the right to have children and to raise those children in a healthy environment with access to clean water and education. I wasn't talking about the need for contraception and for women to be able to control their reproductive destinies. So that's the way that I try to approach abortion access as a journalist, thinking about it as one part of a larger whole. I wrote this book a couple of years ago, right as the Dobbs decision was coming down. I actually was supposed to turn in the book several months later than I ended up turning it in, because when the Supreme Court memo leaked, my publisher called me and was like, you know, those 3 months that you had sketched out to revise the book and make it all pretty, you don't have that anymore. We're gonna rush it out. So you need to get on the road and report and get it done. So I did. I didn't sleep more than like 4 hours a night for a good 6 weeks. It was horrible. I hope I never have to do that again. But what it did was it really forced me to get out and understand the repercussions of what was happening on the ground in real time as the Dobbs decision was coming into effect. The book is driven again by human narrative. I reached out to everyone that I could possibly find to talk to who had experience with abortion pre-Roe to post-Roe. In the book, I write about how areas like the South have been in a post-Roe reality for a long time now. Our access has been curbed in a lot of different ways, and what that has meant for families and economic situations here in the South and other areas of the United States. But mostly, you know, my goal as a writer is to come at this with human empathy. It's to show what people are really dealing with. It's to show people as fully fledged humans in all their complexities and all their flaws. Hopefully the book achieves that. Since then, I have been freelancing and freelancing in tandem with my teaching, which it turns out is really an ideal balance for me. I love continuing to be in the field while I am also in the classroom, because my industry is changing so quickly. Because every time you turn around, another newsroom has shut down and another is sprung up to replace it, and the jobs are changing so quickly. I find it really helpful that I've kept one foot in my industry, that I am still working with editors constantly and hearing how those developments are taking place, and then relaying that to my students. Last fall, I published a story in Mother Jones where I followed an abortion provider who lives in East Tennessee to New Mexico, where he's working. So a lot of providers who haven't wanted to leave their home, even in states where their practice has been banned, are now traveling great distances to offer that kind of care. So that was a feature-length investigation. I spent a lot of time with Dr. Erin Campbell on the road. That to me is my ideal reporting situation, where I'm spending a lot of time with one person. I'm really getting to know them. I'm really getting to understand why they do the things that they do. And then I get to write that for people to read and think about what it's like to be in the shoes of someone they might not encounter in their everyday lives. I also, my beat expands into anything, I think, that affects reproductive health care. So to that end, I published a story a few weeks ago in a newer publication called Capital in Maine that looks at unionization efforts within Planned Parenthood affiliates.
I was hearing a lot of Planned Parenthood workers saying we're not being compensated fairly, post-jobs demand has risen, and we're working longer hours, but we're not getting paid for that, and our families are suffering as a result. So it was important to me to also cover that because they're saying this is affecting patient care. There aren't enough of us. There aren't enough of us being hired to do our job, and as a result, we are making mistakes. So I published that in Capital and Main. That had a data element. So I went through and I did a lot of data analysis of which affiliates were unionizing, which affiliates weren't, to give kind of a bird's eye view of what this phenomenon looks like and how it's moving throughout the space. What's really fun for me is while I'm reporting these and I'm teaching, I'm talking to my students about my reporting process. So for example, in the course of reporting this story, I was using a tool based out of MIT called the Living Wage Calculator. It's really cool. My poor students are so tired of hearing me nerd out about it. But essentially what you do is you put in the zip code of where someone lives. You can adjust it for their family size. Is it, you know, a single parent home? Is it a 2-parent household? What does the income stream look like? And the calculator will generate what a living wage should look like for a family of that size. That was really useful in writing the story about what labor wages should look like for these workers and giving people an idea of what the disparity was there. So getting to bring that back into my classroom and say like, hey, you guys are working on these stories right now. This is a tool that could be really useful is a lot of fun. I also find that my students really respond well to the fact that I am still in the field and that I do have these editor contacts and that I can connect them with internships. I think they enjoy that in my sometimes dry lecturing, there are also anecdotes about things that have happened to me in the field and on the road. So they get the mechanics of journalism and they get what it means to be out there reporting a story and the responsibility of that, but they also get the joy behind it and the fun that I get to have out in the field. And I've really seen that translate for the students. We had a campus protest a few weeks ago. Several of my students went out and covered it. I had 2 students in particular who were so excited to just be out there interviewing people and talking to people about what was going on. They would kind of like bounce out and like interview somebody and they'd really excitedly come back to me and tell me all about it and then bounce back out. It was just like seeing the joy of learning what it means to be in the field and having that permission to talk to people who maybe otherwise you wouldn't get to talk to was, I mean, it's the whole reason that I'm here. It's the whole reason that I'm teaching. Currently, I'm also looking at the intersection between anti-abortion, right-wing, and white supremacist extremism. I'm doing that in an investigative podcast form with John Archibald at AL.com. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner and also just a really amazing reporter. So we are taking his expertise, having covered a clinic bombing in Birmingham in the 90s, with my expertise in what anti-abortion extremism looks like. And we're revisiting the case of Eric Robert Rudolph, who bombed the Olympics in Atlanta in the 90s and 2 abortion clinics in the South, as well as a lesbian nightclub. He killed 2 people and injured more than 100 people. I'm uncovering right now connections to what his involvement with an anti-abortion group called Army of God looks like. We have proven that he went to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho to seek some advice from a white supremacist group there that had not been previously established. And I also, it's a new medium for me. I've never done podcasting. I've never taken investigative work and translated it into an audio form. So I'm also really enjoying getting to talk about that as I learn it and teach it to my students. And that's what I got. Any questions?
The podcast again, what's the name of the podcast?
We think it's going to be called Wrath of God. It hasn't come out yet. It'll come out in the fall. It'll be probably an 8-episode limited series. And we're also working with the documentary production company to potentially spin it off into a documentary series.
Thank you so much for your great work. That's very impressive.
Fantastic.
We're fortunate to have you.
I appreciate that. It's fun. I'm lucky to get to do what I do.
President Andrews, congratulations on the book and the work, and for us, when we talk about applied learning and the
context in which we work as a university. The differentiator for us in the marketplace with our students is not just the relationship with faculty, but the relationship between theory to practice and making knowledge useful, putting ideas into action is how we describe it. And this is just a perfect example of how it is you take subject matter reporting, but enliven it by demonstrating how it works in the real world and then giving students the opportunity to practice it in a safe environment. And my hope and what I know is we do this across all of our degree programs, but just a great example of it. So congratulations.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Second information item has to deal with faculty handbook revision, section 7, termination of faculty. It was sent to you so that you can take a look at it. That came out of an incident that occurred a couple of years ago as we used the dismissal process, and we were asked to look at it again, and working with the faculty senate and the provost office, what you see in front of you is what everybody has come up with as the new process to be used. And it was passed by the faculty senate. So it sits on my desk as we speak. And we're here today to describe the process to you. And I have two people, Professor Stodoin and Professor Hale, here to talk to you about it. They were the leads in putting it together.
Would you stand for here?
Sure.
Hale, come on.
You want to stand?
I went
With the
down
camera
front.
on. Shut the phone, Chad.
Let the camera find you.
All right, so as Bud said, we were tasked to revise the process a couple of years ago. And we took one crack at it last year and we weren't successful. And so this year we restarted and I think we were very successful. We started with what the American Association of University Professors recommends in a case like this. We looked at what our peers were doing. We looked at some of the issues we had. We used the process before, particularly timeline, clarity, who's supposed to be doing what, making sure we retain due process, keeping the regents involved, but in a different way, which is how AEP does it and some other schools do it. And and so it was a really great example of shared governance, I'll say. Julie's been an excellent collaborator. She's been around for a while. She knows the handbook better than just about anybody. We worked with a subgroup of the faculty handbook committee to come up with an initial crack at this, shared it with the full faculty handbook committee, had some back and forth, and brought it to the Senate a few weeks ago and they passed it. So we're bringing it to you to see if you have any questions, particularly about your role in the process. We heard some things about how you guys wanted to operate with this. And so we tried to factor those in, but this is what we got for now.
Can you walk us through what's changed, what's different about this versus what we had?
Sure, I can certainly try.
Before she starts, just real quick, I would like you, because Julie's worked in this area so long, to let her establish her credentials.
Oh, sure.
She's done. Because some.
You're qualified to be an expert, right? Okay, so I guess I'm the poster child for shared governance, at least from the faculty perspective on campus. I started my 21st year at WKU in January, and I've been chair of Senate 4 times, vice chair twice. I have been chair of handbook 4 different times. I was on the committee that revamped the handbook for the first time in about 10 years, back in 2008 and 2009. I have been chair of academic quality, chair of faculty welfare, so I've kind of done it all and seen a lot of different perspectives on shared governance. So it has been my honor to try and instill that on campus, in kind of a grassroots kind of approach to shared governance. So I think, my hope is that this establishes a precedent for future, because this is a major thing. I mean, this is not just let's move some words around on paper. I mean, this is a pretty significant change. And my hope is my credibility in Senate has helped get it through the process a little bit. We did have a little bit of a stumbling block. Senate is a little caught up in some verbiage in the charter as to what is basically the effective policy that's dealt with in the handbook should be processed through the Senate. So we did table it for a month, giving faculty more of an opportunity to review it and consider it. And then it came back basically with no questions and passed unanimously.
So now I think this question of what's changed.
Yeah. So, in August of 22, after the dismissal for hearing that occurred in the summer of 22, I approached the provost and said, hey, can we sit down and have a conversation about that process? And for those of you in the room that don't, I'm an attorney, so I try and keep that hat off for the most part and wear my faculty hat. But there are just some things that kind of stuck out to me from that process. So I sat down with Rob and Provost Fisher, and I said, hey, these are some things I have concerns about. So we talked about due process. We talked about notice and opportunity for a faculty person to respond to allegations. We talked about the timeline as far as how quickly things were getting through or not getting through the process. We talked about evidentiary, like burdens of proof, because that was not, in my mind, clear at all as to what needed to be proved and by whom. And then we talked about the authority of the board and statutorily what that required. We also talked about the authority of the faculty who are already involved in the process in various committee forms, and whether or not we wanted to keep that and how we maybe wanted to change the authority of the committee. So those, I think, are kind of primary issues.
Bud and I came in with a list too, and our lists were almost identical, right? So I mean, we had concerns about the vagaries of the old process, and so we were able to clean a lot of that up.
Yeah, and I know it appears very lengthy, but what we are replacing, in my mind, was very cursory and vague and ambiguous and didn't really protect anybody on this campus. It wasn't a benefit to faculty, it wasn't a benefit to administration, and I didn't believe it was a benefit to the board either. So we've tried to clarify those roles much more clearly, and again, build in that due process to the system.
So my understanding is that what we've really done at the core of this is take the hearing that happened at the board level and actually make that the purview of faculty.
Faculty are triers of fact at this point, and we've taken that responsibility from the board. The board is still involved and can review as much as it wants to, based upon that recommendation of faculty and you, President Cavoni, but they are no longer going to sit as a jury, so to speak.
And then the other question I have is, what is the board process? My reading of it, it doesn't look like you've delineated the board process to decide to read stuff, not read stuff. What does that process look like for the board?
I think the board has the freedom to review any of the record it chooses based upon your recommendation and their interpretation of your recommendation. And they can accept your recommendation or not accept your recommendation. So I think the board still has the kind of the final veto, so to speak, in the process as to, okay, we agree with the recommendations that have come up through the process, or we don't. And if we don't, that basically is the final word. If we do, then, whatever proceedings, if it's a recommendation for dismissal, then those proceedings would begin.
But by that board conversation, that's my board questions. What does that look like? Because who decides what that board process looks like? Is it a conversation among the executive committee? Is it the full board? Is there a vote? I mean,
it was my intent, and maybe that hasn't been communicated, it would be a full board.
I think it would be closed.
Closed session.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because it's a personnel. Yeah. Again, we've tried to build that concept into the process too, as to whether it's going to be public and what record is generated.
And I think this is the faculty handbook, right? So I think it would be helpful for the board. And my hope and dream is that we don't have to ever use this policy.
Right.
But if we do, I think it would be wise for the board to kind of, while there's nothing happening, to make a plan for if something does happen, this is how we'll handle it.
So I think the last faculty handbook had a lot of prescriptive steps for the board that I think I would say we found restrictive as we were working through it for those that were in the room that day. And the way I read this is we get to decide. And I expressed that to this group as they were working, that we don't really need the right policy for us. We need to decide what we think fulfills our obligation. So the questions you're asking, I think we need to decide. The board needs to decide.
I agree with that too. Yeah, and you know, I mean, just certain things about, it says a copy of the evidentiary record will be submitted, but then, like you said, we could look at anything we wanted to, so I don't know. That doesn't seem to be clear in there that we could look at anything.
Well, our hope is the evidentiary record will be everything.
We'll include everything.
Yeah, again, we're hoping that the record that's generated that is consistent from level in the process to level in the process, so that we're not having, and again, I don't like to refer to what happened before, but there were parts of the evidence that I didn't believe were necessarily in the record officially. So we're hoping that, you know, from the very beginning, when the committee is looking at this, when the charges come up, that entire record is generated at that point in time, and there will be an official version of that, and that will be everything. There should not be anything that was not considered by the committee and then not considered by the provost and the president, and not be able to be considered by you.
So at this point, this still has to be accepted by academic affairs.
Yes.
So if the board put together and talked with the chair and Regent Bell about this, we put together a small task force from the board to talk about what our steps should be and make a recommendation to the full board in consultation with council, which make sure we're fulfilling our legal obligation. Would that seem like a fair process to? So maybe the chair, Regent Bell as the chair of academic affairs, myself as a faculty, anyone else who'd want to try to have that adopted by, is that changing, it's not changing the delegation of authority, it's changing our bylaws. Where would we codify that process? Where do we have to make?
We have this.
I can make one other comment. First, Julie, thank you very much for the leadership and Rob as well. A great example of how shared governance does work on this campus, as much as people talk about it not working so much. But the other is that I think this centers the evaluation and decision-making in the area where it needs to, which is around faculty expertise. And so while I appreciate the previous process had the board exercising its full responsibility, the reality is these are such narrow questions that require an understanding that an average citizen would not have. Putting it in the hands of faculty, to me, is a tremendous improvement. So I'm thankful for that as well. It demonstrates also for some of our legislators who don't believe that there is post-tenure review or consequences or incompetence or whatever, or malfeasance. It demonstrates that we take this very seriously, that there are evaluations, and then when on the rare occasion when someone meets a criteria for tenure being revoked, that we have a process that takes it seriously as well. So tenure is not a job for life, as they sometimes describe. There are significant evaluations, and on a rare occasion where it comes to a difficult decision point, there's a respectful yet well thought out process too. Thank you.
if I may just make a quick comment on that, I thought that was very well said and a very important step toward, again, embedding that concept of shared governance on this campus. Just want to make sure that the board, and I know you appreciate this, but I feel like it needs to be said that the faculty, first of all, on the ad hoc committee are volunteers. We put in, I don't know how many hours on this thing, and the faculty are going to be sitting on these committees are also essentially volunteers. I mean, they are put into a pool by Senate, and then they're pulled out of a pool, but still they're doing this that is kind of over and above the teaching responsibility that we assume. I mean, it is a service, but I think we were very cognizant of putting that new responsibility on faculty when we were drafting this and talking to our colleagues about it and trying to really come up with what we thought was a really good alternative. And I think we did.
And I'll just add, it parallels a process that we already have in place where faculty have to fill out a motion complaint. It parallels that process, so it makes it more familiar and consistent, which I think is also helpful.
So two things. First, the chair has a wording suggestion that I'll share with you after the meeting. But first, one of the comments that I've heard on campus is we have gone through this process for the last 2 years. And I can't count the number of phone conversations we've had while I was on vacation sometimes. But anyway, so some of the faculty have been concerned that the board is advocating its authority here and that we're stepping out and we're just turning it over to the president. And I have assured them we are the governing body of this institution and we can't abdicate that authority. It's just we may come in a different way, still at the end, but in a different way and have a different amount of information given to us at that time. So just to still make that clear, what I was pushing for as part of this was the triers of fact, the due process occur at a different level to make sure that that work is done completely, as the chair said, as much as before it comes to us. But we are still the governing body of this institution, holding everyone accountable for those decisions. So.
Well, if I may too, I would like to thank University Counsel's Office because Andrew, your colleague, really was a huge help to us and the Provost's office too. I mean, we all put a lot of work into this.
Not to put anything else on Julie's plate, but there is an allowance if the board forms a committee to have a non-board member on that committee for advisory purposes. So if there is a task force to discuss that language, I would imagine Jan as being in that room would be a good one for it that day. I'm not asking to be on that committee because I'm looking forward to not being on board in a couple of months. But Julie's really got the history with this, and not to volunteer you, but I do think.
Keep in mind, I've got an end date here. May of 25. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Last comment, Julie, since you worked in Senate for so long on this process of shared governance, can you speak to, and we get such a, I don't say slanted, but misunderstanding sometimes about that. And we're seeing at a flagship institution in the state, some kind of deep questions about shared governance, the role of Senate. You've worked with this so long and so hard. Can you talk about what you think the role of that is on a healthy campus?
I mean, I think it's a central role. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how important I think it is, which is why I've done everything that I've done. I can remember having our meetings with President Caboni as chair of the Senate. And he would say, well, what does faculty think? And I'm like, well, President Caboni, I can tell you what I think. But, there are a lot of different viewpoints on campus, which I think is a very healthy thing. And I'm hoping that shared governance, has the ability to shine a light on that and to bring those viewpoints together. Senate has not always, a consensus on issues. And that, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that it's good for me to hear other perspectives. It's good for our students to hear other perspectives. It's good for our students to see this process in action, I think. It's a central role. I think, we cannot function to the best interest of everyone on this campus without it.
To this point, one of the things that I've talked about for 7 years is this has to be a collaborative, not a combative process. And that requires both trust, but time. And so one of the things that I've done is every month sit down with the chair of both faculty senate and staff senate in my office, responding to any questions that they had. I visit with staff senate every time. I've been invited each year. We're gonna have the same process with faculty senate to kick off the fall semester each year. And I just think it is both a growth process, but also a trust building process. And we have a lot of work on the trust side to get to a better place. And I'm thankful for academic affairs really taking the lead on that. And I think we've made great strides compared to where we were 7 years ago.
And that addition to the process as Senate and both faculty and staff, I think it's been hugely important to me. I mean, I just feel like it at least disseminates information. You know, at the point of agreement, that's a whole nother issue, but at least it gets the information out there. So nobody, you know, the transparency factors, so.
Questions? Thank you very much for your time and support.
Regents Miller, I gotta go to the housing board to make a presentation. So if you can just email me your change.
Sure, fine.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for that presentation.
Thank you.
We certainly appreciate it.
Provost, step away. Do you have an update on the presentation we saw last time? Did you participate in the Sun Sketcher app? Have we heard that?
Dave's here. I read the numbers, but I can't remember what they were. It was over 1 million people pictures, I know.
Yeah, so 36,000 people contributed their data. The data is still loading because it's 101 pictures per person. And spectacular, even the initial data is already showing some results. It will take a while to analyze millions of pieces of data, but we're going to have a lot of students having fun making most precise measurements of the size of the sun, and it's going to lead to follow-up grants as well, so the future students are benefiting from this as well. It's a tremendous success. NASA has a full web page dedicated to thank you for contributing, and so I think it's the perfect model for what we do. We cutting edge research, and we train students at the same time. Do important things.
It's also a classic citizen science.
It is.
And
One of their most
where we
successful.
get everybody involved across the country. And, you know, I talked to Gordon yesterday and we were talking about it, and I asked him when he had some results that had all the data in it. I'd love to see it, and I'd love to share it with you guys, because that's what I really want to see. I want to know the size of the sun.
Yeah. Thank you, Provost Fisher.
Yep.
Here that Louis had.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Chair Brody. Oh, the Finance and Budget Committee.
Thank you, Chair Milligan. We have one action item today, the approval of faculty and staff personnel actions which have been approved through the administrative channels and executed through Human Resources Information System during the period January 1st, 24 to February 29th, 24. Since this is a relatively new form of presentation, I'd like to reread the following. The Finance Committee requested the university to restructure and streamline the personnel report so the board can engage in a more focused review of the university's proposed compensation commitments in accordance with statute. Personnel report has been updated to accommodate this request, and moving forward, the board will review and approve the new appointments, promotions, market equity adjustments, and reclassifications that result in increased compensation on a biannual basis. Faculty and staff one-time payments will be presented to the board on an annual basis. Actions are identified by type and funding source and exclude those actions specifically delegated to the president. Susan, do you have?
I don't have any comments. These are just typical personnel actions from January through February, but I know the president.
One comment that I will make, you will recall, connected to the conversation we just had around tenure, that when there was a vote in May, assuming you approved the personnel actions, as part of that vote, you are granting tenure and promotion decisions to a group of faculty. And what is not clear in this is who those folks are and what they do. So at our May meeting, before you take that vote, we're going to compile and present to you the individuals who were embedded in this report who have been approved for either promotion and promotion and tenure. Very good.
Any further questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the faculty and staff personnel actions.
So moved.
Second.
Future Brittany.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have one information item, and that is the quarterly internal audit report. Bruce White.
Thank you, Regent Brody. Good morning, everyone. As standard with most of my presentations, we'll talk about, we'll hit on these 4 topics, the audit plan, the hotline, some other updates in the office, and what's coming down the pike. So with the audit plan, this is where we've been spending our time this fiscal year so far. We've spent 53% of our time working on audit projects. That's lower than what I would like it to be. I'll also tell you it's the lowest it's going to be all fiscal year. We spent the last month, 6 weeks or so, working on our annual risk assessment process. And a lot of that time has been put in the department management bucket. So that's why department management's at 17%. The project time is at 53%. Looking at the gray slice of the pie, the only one I'll talk about is professional development. Last meeting, that was at 9%. We're down to 7%. That will continue to work its way down as we do most of our professional development in the fall. So this is looking pretty good from my standpoint. We'll continue to report this. For the actual audit plan, we've completed 6 projects. We've got 3 in progress, and we have 2 remaining. Since our last meeting, we've completed the Honors College audit and an advisory service about decentralized controls. I'll direct your attention to the bottom with the remaining projects. We've got 3 months left in the fiscal year, and we've got 3 projects in process, 2 remaining. Most audit departments do not complete their entire audit plan. They normally end up about 80% of their projects get complete. So what does that mean for us? We'll have 1 or 2 projects that don't get done. We expect to have a significant amount of work done on 1 of these 2 projects, and then whichever one we don't tackle this fiscal year, we will consider for next year's audit plan. And we'll go through that risk assessment process. We'll say, what do we know now? And has that changed from what we knew a year ago? Should we keep this project on the plan, or should we remove it? And that'll be part of this process here in the next few months as we put next year's audit plan. This slide and the next one are the new and exciting slides that you haven't seen yet. These are what we'll call our follow-up updates. So our professional standards require when we issue an audit report and we have audit findings that we track and monitor those findings to see what management does with those. So far we have 8 moderate risk items and 3 low risk items that have been issued to management, and they're still out there. They're still being worked on. There's no concerns there. That's how the process works. You'll also see in the middle of the screen, we've got 1 moderate risk that's got yellow and black diagonals. That's an item that was in an audit report. Management has taken the actions we recommended and they thought were pertinent, and they've mitigated that risk. So that one's done, it's implemented, it's off the list. As we go forward, you'll see the number of outstanding audit items go up as we do more audits. Work with management to look at their follow-up items. You'll see the open items go down and the implemented items go up. So we'll report this to you all each quarter going forward now that we have a couple of audit items to report. The other item related to follow-up is aging report. So for those of you who are more used to looking at financial data, you can compare this to your accounts receivable aging. Accounts receivable aging says, you know, you billed your customer, how long does it take them to pay you? If they haven't paid you within 30 days, that's when you start
pushing a little bit harder to get collections. If they haven't paid you after 90 days, they're probably not gonna pay you, and you start writing things off. So from an audit perspective, it's the same thing. Only instead of 90 days, we're looking typically around a year. I like to give folks about a year to work on things. We should be seeing progress. We're gonna touch base with management every 3 months, see how they're doing. And if they're getting closer to that 365 days, that's where we're gonna start having those conversations. Why hasn't this been corrected? Why hasn't this been changed? Are there other things we need to consider? So again, you'll see this during the meetings, and when you start seeing things in the top bucket, that's when we need to have conversations with management. So far, everything's good. We're under 6 months for each of the items. For the hotline, so far this fiscal year, we've had 8 hotline cases. 5 have been closed. 3 are in process. That's the current status. Since our last meeting, we closed 2 reports and 4 more were opened. So I think we've got evidence here that our internal audit and hotline awareness campaign that we've been focused on is paying some dividends. We're seeing activity in the hotline. We're looking at what our strategy should be for next year of further educating the community on what kind of things to report to the hotline, what other reporting avenues are available, maybe more appropriate. We'll go down that path. But so far, the hotline awareness is, in my mind, paying dividends. Along those lines, if you have any concerns, please give me a call, shoot me an email, report it to the hotline. See something, say something. Other updates. I mentioned we've spent a lot of time doing our annual risk assessment for the last 4 to 6 weeks. A big thank you to many people in this room who participated in that process. We had 42 participants this year. 35 people completed the survey. 18 people had a discussion with us. If you're good at math, you'll know those 2 things don't add up to 42. That's because some people did both. So thank you to those people who double dipped with me on that one. We've shared some initial results with the President's Cabinet on what that risk assessment is and talking about next steps and plans for that. I always like to give you guys an update on consultations. One of our goals for this fiscal year was to have 25 consultations where people reach out and ask us a question unprompted. I'm happy to report we're at 25 for the year. We've had 9 since January. Our target for this year was 25. So I really had no idea where to set that bar. So we've hit that one. We'll establish this goal for FY25 again next year and move it up the chain a bit. I continue to believe these consultations are one of the best indicators of our presence on campus and the trust we have with the university community. And I encourage anyone, if they have a thought, if they want to talk about process, call us, let us know. The people who have taken advantage of this, I think they found it helpful. So I'm really happy and pleased with that information. Again, as far as campus awareness, we presented at the Staff Leadership Institute, the SLI. We let them know who we are, what we do, and how we do it. At January, I mentioned we were going to run the March Madness Bracket Challenge. I'm happy to say we had 139 participants. Congratulations to Jessica Doris in the registrar's office. She's our inaugural winner. She had a really good looking bracket. And I'll also say honorable mention to Stuart Burris over in Austin. He got 2nd and 3rd place. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun. We used that as an opportunity when we sent out the invitation to participate to also let folks know the hotline is there, what kind of things to report, so that while we were mixing some fun with business, I think everyone had a good time. Looking ahead, we've got a couple months ahead of us. In March, we completed the self-assessment for our office in internal audit. We've identified some areas where we can improve our processes to further align with our standards. The first week of May, we're having an external review group come in, and they're going to review our self-assessment, validate our findings, and give us some more opportunities to improve. Once they do that, that report will be shared with you, Regent Brady, and we'll have more things to work on. Again, this is the audit of the auditor, so I always like to mention that for everybody. And we're doing that review now because the professional standards require that happen every 5 years. Our last review happened in 2019. So we're going to take care of this one in summer 2024 and be on track. Second item up here. So we've done the risk assessment. We know where some of the risks are. We know where the high risk items are. So now our office is going to use that to put our audit plan together for fiscal year 25. We'll be reporting the audit plan or requesting your approval for that audit plan at the June meeting. So stay tuned for that one. That's coming up. And then finally, with campus awareness, we've been invited to speak at a accounting class and at the student publication staff meeting next week, and just give them a flavor of what is internal audit, what do we do, where are we at, how do we work, those kinds of things. So that's where we are. Thank you all for your support, your time, your effort, especially with the risk assessment. I know that's a big lift, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions or Bruce or comments?
I will mention that we will have at the retreat is the target, the conversation around how it is we're using risk assessment as a strategic planning tool. It's been refreshing, given the initial conversation I had with the other Regent Nichols when he began his tenure on the board around what kind of risk assessment do we do. Not only do we have the data around what leadership perceives as potential risks, but also what's longitudinal data. We have the results that demonstrate what interventions have done to reduce that risk perception and risk profile. And so it's really fulfilling to me. Doesn't sound very sexy, but it's fulfilling to see this coming to fruition. Congratulations.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I would say that we're competing a little bit this morning with the sounds of progress, and we can go. It's nice to see the business really going out. Chair Milliken, that concludes finance and budget.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brody. Student affairs. Regent Dennis.
I'm gonna let John Mark take it away and make.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Dennison and Regents. You're right. Dean Martha Sells is traveling this morning, so I have the opportunity to introduce the presentation, the information item this morning. We talk often as an institution about student-centered and applied learning. You heard it previewed earlier with Professor Andrews, and you've heard that being returned to. And the group that will come in and speak this morning about the Tally Family Counseling Center provides another great example of that. Student-centeredness, of course, means meeting our students' intellectual needs and addressing their academic growth, but it also means taking care of the whole self and addressing their mental health needs and meeting the demand for increased counseling services. And then the applied research opportunity or applied learning opportunity is also underscored, through which graduate students get the opportunity to practice while they're still a student, while they're earning their certification under the supervision of a licensed counselor. So those things, and then you finally have higher education as an industry that is traditionally very heavily siloed, right? With weighty lines dividing divisions between the academic enterprises and the enrollment and student experience side. But the Tally Center really kind of blurs those lines and provides us with an example of how a higher education institution can work across divisions and silos. For example, the Tally Center, the center and the graduate program are housed within the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences. They work hand in glove with the WKU Counseling Center, which is within the Division of Enrollment and Student Experience. It, of course, advances those academic goals of providing hands-on experience for our students. And finally, it is generously supported by philanthropic support from the Tally family. So it really is a multi-divisional effort. And I'm pleased this morning to turn things over to Dr. Jill Sauerhaber, who is chair of the Department of Counseling and Student Affairs, to introduce our students and let you all learn about this.
Thank you. So I am so pleased to be here because actually this has been going on since 2006. And I came to WKU in 2004 and was part of growing this and developing this. And in fact, the Tally Family Counseling Center was originally in the clinical education complex. And because it grew in so many different ways, and because of our links that we developed throughout the community, we actually moved it to Gary Rensdale Hall, where faculty and many, Emily and Alyssa are interns, where interns can work really collaboratively in the same building. So since that time, our work on campus as well as out in the community just continues and continues to develop. So we started, I think, maybe with two, maybe 3 interns, and because of the capacity, we really had to grow the work there. So I'm going to turn this over to this fantastic group. We are all as faculty going to miss them because of the work that they have done. One last thing about our interns. One of the reasons why I believe it has grown so much and we've been able to touch so many people and help so many clients is because each group of interns mentors the next. I mean, I don't know how they would be able to kind of just do this, expand this throughout the last 2 decades if it wasn't for our choice interns in the center. So I am just so pleased and so excited, and also sad that they're going to be on and moving on. And the last piece, I keep saying last piece because I'm just so excited about it. All of our Tally interns get hired immediately. They all have jobs, I would say, within a month of graduating in May, if not in the February before they graduate. That's amazing. They are trained in neuropsychology. Within the last year, they have launched our biofeedback program, which is the only program within the region except for Nashville or Louisville. They are doing this for our work. So interns, if you wouldn't mind just briefly introducing yourselves. I know that each of you have a slide. Do you have the clicker?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Summer, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. We are so grateful today to be able to talk to you a little bit about the Tally Center. As Dr. Jill mentioned, we're going to start off with some brief introductions. So my name is Alyssa, and I am a current Tally intern. I'm getting ready to graduate in May. I'm doing the 2-year clinical mental health track for our master's program, and I also function as a GA for the department as well.
My name is Emily Payne. I am also an intern at Tally. I'm on the 2-year track of the clinical mental health program, and I'm also a graduate assistant in the counseling and student care department.
Hi, I'm Natalie Kelly. I'm also on the 2-year clinical mental health track, graduating in May, and I'm a Tally intern, and I am a graduate assistant in student activity.
My name is Tori Mintier, and I'm an upcoming intern at the Tally. I've gotten to experience being there for the past few years in undergrad, and so I'm excited to continue down in grad school, and I'll be finishing that up next year.
Yeah, so a little bit of history of the Tally Family Counseling Center. As Dr. Sauerhaber mentioned, we were started in the early 2000s by Dr. Page and Ben Tally. Dr. Page Tally was WKU alum in the 50s. They set up the counseling center at their respective alma maters, and they are lifelong educators in the counseling field.
So Tally's vision, there's 2 different parts: to develop highly qualified counselors and to eliminate barriers to counseling services to promote mental health on campus and in the community.
So talking about just how the Tally has been able to produce highly qualified counselors, the interns, us, are trained as generalists, which means we are able to serve a variety of clients from just multiple backgrounds in diversity. So we serve clients from childhood through late life and also as couples and families. We receive weekly training seminars as well as individual supervision each week, which focuses on skill development, treatment modalities, treatment planning, clinical records, and also maintaining law and ethical code. We are also introduced to cutting-edge therapies in those weekly seminars and supervisions. And like Dr. Sarkis mentioned, we get to use biofeedback, which I've personally done a lot of work with this past year. I really enjoy it. It's a really awesome tool to work with clients. We also get to do play therapy, couples counseling, various trauma interventions with clients as well, risk management, and also just various advanced theories that we can go on and use with clients now and also upon graduation.
And they never shut down during COVID. Never shut down. They immediately responded to what they needed to do.
We moved to telehealth format to better meet clients. So
from 2006 to present, the Tally Counseling Center has produced over 25 professional counselors.
There are a lot of different places that you can find Tally alumni. Some of those being targeting positions such as president, chief executive officers, clinical directors, program managers, and clinical professionals in general and special settings. And then various settings that you can read. But just to name a few, group and private practice, community mental health, schools, which I'll talk about later, but we also work in the schools too, so.
And instructors in our department.
Talking a little bit about eliminating barriers. So all of our services are provided at no cost to clients. So the Tally family's generous donations cover roughly 30% of our clinic's costs, with steps covering the remainder of our operation costs. Clients can access services in person or via telehealth, as we kind of mentioned. During COVID, we switched to that complete telehealth format to better meet clients while they were at their homes quarantining. And services aren't limited, so clients can receive as many sessions as needed for the duration of their treatment, and they don't have a session limit. So again, they can continue to come even after they start getting better to maintain the work that they've done. Our hours are flexible. We're open roughly about 10 to 6, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays to better accommodate the needs of students, professionals, and their families. And we also do outreach, which is a way for us to take counseling to community members that may or may not traditionally have access or even pursue services. Just a little bit more about. Next slide.
Can you speak a little bit about your psychoeducation in the area schools?
Oh yeah, we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, so Tally provides over 1,000 hours of direct clinical service to both WKU students, faculty, and staff, as well as community members. We're able to offer different modalities such as individual counseling, couples counseling, family, and sometimes group as well.
So we have several partnerships with different on-campus and community organizations. Some that we've worked with personally are the Kelly Autism Program, which Alyssa has worked with very closely. Emily's done some work with ISEC and the Why Not Us organization. And then all three of us have kind of spearheaded a group at Bowling Green Junior High. It's a self-confidence group for girls. And we've been doing this all semester. We really love working with them. We're going there this afternoon. So.
And just kind of building upon our relationship with the Warren County school system, we actually last semester, me and Emily and one of the other GAs at the time actually went into the schools and provided psychoeducation on coping strategies with stress management. So we were actually able to meet a lot of students quite literally where they were at in school and get to provide them with some mindfulness techniques and ways that they can cope with the stress. Taking the ACT, getting ready to graduate, transitioning into college, and some of the people that we've actually met in the schools have come on and actually receive services from Tally as well. So it's really been really awesome collaboration we've gotten to have with the Warren school system. So just kind of speaking further to our experience, again, my name is Alyssa. I'm a proud alumni of Western. I received my bachelor's in psychological science and biology before coming into the program. The TFCC has just been so wonderful to my development as a counselor. Just with the generalist setting and us being able to provide services to such a vast population, I've got to really just shape like who I want to be as a counselor and have a very diverse experience. So I feel very confident that when I go out to the real world and I apply for what I would like to, a private practice, I'd be able to meet any client that walks in my doors with open arms to be able to treat them the best way that I can. So.
To second that, I also am an alum. I got a BA in psychology here and love it so much. I came back to the counseling program. Tally has been great to just give me a really diverse experience. I've had a really, very spread out. I've had very different and unique clients that I don't think I would have if I chose a practice off of campus. I've gotten to work with students and organizations as well as in the community. After I graduate in May, I will be pursuing a doctoral program at Kid State and becoming a counselor educator.
And to echo what they've also said, it's been a great experience. I love being a Tally intern. I also got my bachelor's in science here at Western in psychological science and political science, and then came back and stayed, obviously. Love the Tops, go Tops. And it's just been a wonderful experience. I, like they said, have had diverse clients. I've had great hands-on experience, and I personally have like a very specific interest in college-age students, so it's been great for that demographic because a lot of my clients are college-age, so it's been great.
I came into I started in the job program here at Western in the counseling program, so I was able to kind of get a head start on my graduate degree. But because of some undergrad offerings, I was able to start at the Tally, and it was like fall of 2022, and I've kind of hung out since, and I've gotten to learn from all of the interns. This is the second crew that I've kind of watched, and they like have taught me a lot. I've learned a lot sitting in on supervision, which is I feel really lucky to have gotten to do. And so when it was time to apply to a practicum site, it's like I would love to be at Tally. I love everything that they're doing, and I can't wait to step into their shoes on this. And they might get some text from me asking for help, but I've learned a lot, and I can't wait to continue that for the next year.
Yeah, and just a special thanks to the Tally family for providing us with this experience. It wouldn't be possible without them. We got to meet Dr. Tally last semester, and she was great. She's super passionate about our learning and what we're doing with the community. So it's been a very special experience to work with them.
Thank you all for your time today, and that's where you can find us. Thanks.
Thank you.
If I might add, my thanks to Betty, Callie, and certainly Paige for what they do. I've had a great fortune of spending some time with her. It's obviously a passion of theirs, but also the belief in what it is we do, not just for our students in an applied setting, but really what our community desperately needs, both our in-house WKU community, but also the larger Bowling Green community. For our university to be able to provide these services at no cost is a tremendous addition to how we have to address what is a growing challenge for our young people on our campus, for our faculty and staff, and for our larger community. Mental health continues to be a growing issue. Before the pandemic, fully a third of our students came to campus on some sort of medication to deal with mental health. That number has just grown over time. And so I'm thankful for Betty, and I hope she's watching, Betty's investment in our university and continuing belief in what we're doing. Jill, proud of the work that you do as well. Thank you for your leadership.
This is incredible. So how much, if you were a community person, if I wanted to refer patients to you for, for therapy, how would I do that? How much would it cost? Are you able to?
So it's free
insurance
cost. And we would just go to do we have our website on one of the slides?
Yeah, it's on the website. I think
We would just go to the website. So is it better just calling in or emailing?
Yeah, if you just go to WKU TFCC, it'll have our phone number and you call.
Start again.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you go to WKU and TFCC, that should bring up our Western page, and that'll bring up all of our information. Yeah, there's a website right there. But it'll bring up what you need to do if you want to set up an appointment. And I think for most of us, setting it up via phone is probably the best thing. So you would call and they would be a phone screen, and then we would from there go on and schedule them for an appointment. But yeah, it's absolutely no cost to anybody that wants to receive services. And as long as that individual resides within the state of Kentucky, we can provide telehealth. So if students go home for the summer and they would like to continue services, as long as they live within the state of Kentucky, then we are still able to continuity of care, keep that going. So,
And there's parking spots.
yes, there's parking.
So this wku.edu/Tally counseling is a good website, right?
Yes.
I need that when I need counseling. Thank you very much.
Everybody.
So I have a question. Do you all have capacity for everyone that needs services, or?
We haven't had to turn anyone away. We have pretty full schedules right now with finals coming up. And maybe the rainier weather, some people are like feeling a little glum when it comes to counseling. But yeah, we haven't really had to refer out much. So yeah, with the four of us, we're missing one current intern today, but with the four of us, it's been pretty manageable.
Say you work with the Kelly Autism Center. Can you tell me how you work?
Yeah, so I just developed a partnership with Peyton Collins. He's one of the individuals that has a great, he's one of the individuals that works there, and he's somebody that I developed a close relationship with. And we kind of have like an ongoing conversation of clients he feels would be a good fit just for state of our clinic. And he just refers clients to me, and I have the opportunity to see them and kind of help them work towards the treatment goals that they need at that time.
So you see autistic children and you do therapy for them and maybe do therapy for their families too?
Yes, I personally have not worked with families. Majority of the individuals that have been referred to me from CAP are college age. So I haven't worked with many smaller children within the Kelly Autism program. yeah, mostly those older adults. But yeah, just opportunity to work with them.
We did attend, last summer during our practicum, we went to, I think it was Kelly hosted, that, summer camp. And it was, I think, middle school age, autistic children. And they were learning how to do like social skills. We have out in the community, but not.
Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, excellent.
Great information. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That concludes the only information.
I think that.
Is that it?
For us, but boy, we learn a lot, don't we?
We really did it.
Excellent.
Is the next item, and I'm not aware of anything that we need to bring before the board, if any other member of that committee knows of anything, speak now or forever. All right, that being said, is there anything else we need to take up while we're here? Let me remind you, Beth has been kind enough to provide us with a complete itinerary as far as graduation is concerned in May, all of the attending events. I just draw that to your attention. You should in your packet. If you don't, sure get another copy. We appreciate that, Beth. Thank you so much for putting that in writing so we don't make mistakes.
Yes.
I want to thank all of you for coming. It's been a great committee meeting today. I think we appreciate everyone's attendance always, and appreciate your participation and appreciate your input and just being here and being such an affable group. It's just a pleasure to meet with this group, I think. That being said, if there's nothing else, meeting's adjourned.